Hi everybody and welcome to Tuesday Talks. I'm Peter Lewis from Breakthrough Church here in Melbourne, Australia, and I love having you join me on a Tuesday night to share from the Word of God, because that's what gives us our breakthroughs. We're not surviving and just getting by. We're not just making do with what we can. We are getting breakthroughs, and our breakthroughs come from the Word of God. So I love the fact that you can join me, and glad to have Richard joining from Croydon and others that are online. It's really exciting to have you here, because I've got a message I want to share. Before I do, though, I want to share a joke. Because dad jokes are really important for all the dads out there. So I want to give you dads who are listening a joke. You can just tell the family like we did, because the other night we ordered Asian food. Takeaway, it came, and we were arguing whether it was Chinese or Malaysian food. Was it Chinese? In the end, we called it Thai. Okay, so you can use that one. Hi from the family room, and a couple of people, and Jordan from the Wanturna. Okay, right down the passageway. So it's great to have you joining us for this Tuesday talk. And I want to share tonight about a secret. This is, I want to, who else loves the dad jokes? Hey, encourage me, people. Otherwise, I'll dry up if I don't get the response I need. I'll just go back to doing Bible teaching, and you miss out on the Joker week. So let's go to Philippians 4. Let's get stuck into this. We've been talking about how to live super in a natural world. This is God's plan. He never planned for us just to live in this world under our own ability and strength and just to get by, and eventually we get to heaven. And then when we're in heaven, then everything changes. No, God intended for us now to be a totally new creature living under His authority, and for us to walk. It says that the disciples went about sharing the good news, and Jesus working with them, confirming the word with signs and wonders. He intended to keep working amongst us. So, you heard our pastor. If he knows you laugh at his jokes, he'll keep them coming. So, that's very important. So, Philippians 4 gives us a key to help us to lay hold of that for which we were called to be living this super life, this supernatural life. So go with me to Philippians chapter 4, and we're going to read from verse 10. So I'll just call it up here. All right, Philippians chapter 4, verse 10. And I want you to see something here that Paul talks about. Now he's talking in this section about the fact that he's received an offering. Part of the reason he's written this letter to the Philippians is to acknowledge a great offering that they'd given him, something that had caused him to be able to walk in complete sufficiency in what he needed at that time, and he was grateful. So he wanted to send a letter back to say, thank you for giving me this gift. And he says in verse 10, but I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at last you have revived your concern for me. Sometimes I wonder, when you say something and then you realize, oh, what have I said? I need to just sort of qualify that a little bit. First of all, he says, oh, I'm so excited that you gave me an offering. And then he realizes, oh, I better explain that a little bit. And then he says, I'm so pleased that you finally got to give something to me. You revived your concern. And in other words, you used to give, but then it dried up and you've given again. And then he's like, whoa, hang on, let me explain. I'm not saying you had lost the concern. It's just that you lacked the opportunity. In other words, you weren't able to give. It's like the internet was down. I couldn't give. I couldn't. Postal service was down. I couldn't give. Well, in those days, what they needed to give was somebody that they knew and trusted who was going to the place where they knew Paul was. It's very hard to get those both things connected. First of all, to know where Paul was at any given time, I'm guessing, was not an easy task. First of all, you had to have it confirmed. This is where he is. This is what's happening. And then you need to have someone who's going there that you can greatly trust. And so they had prepared an offering, but they just didn't have an opportunity to give. Then they find out Paul's actually in prison, and there's a couple going from the church to visit him, and so they send this money with him, and he receives it. So he says, you were concerned, but now you didn't have the opportunity. And he said, and besides, I'm not actually speaking about, oh, I'm so excited that you've given, thank you for the money. He says, listen, my focus is not on the money. He says, not that I speak from want. He said, I'm not speaking out of the needs I have, and this is the part I want us to learn from. For I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. And he said, then I said, I know how to get along in humble means, and I also know how to live in prosperity in any and every circumstance. I have learned the secret I have learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. I can do all things, and this is the secret part, I can do all things through him, Jesus Christ, who strengthens me. Now, this passage is talking particularly about the fact he has learned how to handle the situation when he doesn't have much money or when he has a lot of money. But he talks about it as a secret. You see that in I have learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering. I have learned the secret. Now, there's two kinds of secret, right? There's a kind of secret where someone comes to you and says, can I share something with you, and will you keep it a secret? In other words, this is knowledge that has got to be limited. I can pass the knowledge on to you, but we cannot let it go further. It's a secret. And some people say, oh, yes, you can. I will keep this totally a secret. And while they're doing that, they're getting the phone out and they're sending a text to the friend. Just wait till you hear what I'm about to tell you. And they're excited. Some people can't keep a secret, but that's a kind of secret where you are meant not to tell someone. There is another kind of secret, and it's used in this way. The secret on how to lift heavy boxes is to lift with your legs and not with your back. The secret, do you hear that? The same phrase. So I said, can I tell you a secret? And then there's a way when I said, the secret to lifting heavy boxes is to learn the correct lifting method of using your legs and not using your back. Some people like that. What's that mean about it? It means don't bend over and use your back to straighten with the box. Crouch down and use your legs to lift you up, keeping your back straight. So there's a secret there. That secret is not something that you're not allowed to share. All right. So when our children are young and I see one of them going over to lift something very heavy and I say, hey, let me tell you the secret of how to lift that, they don't think, oh, I better not tell anybody else. This is only between Dad and me. And when they're watching, their brother come along a little bit later and he's lifting something heavy, I can't tell you how to lift that. I can't tell you. Oh, I can't tell you how to lift that because that's a secret. No, that type of secret just means it is not an obvious, easy truth. It's a secret that needs to be learned or dug a little bit to find out. You don't just get that secret. Then the natural thing to do is just go and pick up and stand up with the box. I remember a few years ago now, I was going with Caleb. Actually, we were traveling over to the other side of the city. Caleb was involved in a project that he was working with Deakin University, and they were using the same sort of equipment that you use you measure elite athletes with. When you put all the dots on them and you record them with a computer, and you've sort of seen that on TV sometimes. How they might have an athlete there and they've got all the computer parts connected to them so they can monitor them, and then they've got a camera following them and watching their actions and things like that. Well, they were using that type of equipment, which is normally used for athletes, but they were using it in the workplace. And so they were helping people who were doing things not like athletes. They were helping people in the workforce. And so there was a council on the other side of the city. I won't name them because I actually don't know the name anyway, the name of the council. But anyway, there was a council, and they were going over there and they were measuring and assessing the people that were doing the tree lopping and the chopping down of the trees and clearing of rubbish and things like that. And so I was talking to Caleb on the way, and I said, what have you discovered so far? What have you learnt? And he said, well, the first thing they did was when they analysed it, he said, as the day goes on particularly, but they have a bad technique. They have a technique of using a lot of back muscle for their for the leaning over and the using the chainsaw and the cutting equipment, and so that he says as the day goes on, the technique gets worse, and they put more and more strain on their back. He said to me, "I'm surprised they don't have a lot more trouble with back injuries because their technique is such that they're putting a lot of strain on the back." And we got over there, and he said, the guy we were coming over to analyze today, he can't. He's not coming in. They've just told him he can't. He's hurt his back. He can't come in because he's got back problems." And Kayla looked at me like, "Yep, I'm not surprised because their technique lent itself to back problems. They did not learn the secret of how to cut things without putting pressure on the back muscles." That's a secret. It's not a secret that people, oh, we can't tell them. You know, if he went in there the first day and he shared the technique of how to do this with the head foreman and with the chief trainer of that whole organization, and then he comes back in 6 months later and he says, you still got all these problems with back trouble. He said, didn't you share what I shared with you? And he goes, oh no, it was a secret. So I wouldn't tell anybody. You say, that you're an idiot. That's not this kind of secret. So do you understand? Two kinds of secret. One kind is not to be shared. Another kind is this kind of secret. A secret which is a powerful observation and truth that's not obvious, that it's not sitting on the surface, that not everyone does. If it was obvious, it wouldn't have to be a secret. You know, the secret to cutting things without hurting your back is not obvious. Otherwise, they would just do it naturally. But no, it's more sort of natural to lean over and use your back and use your back muscles, and therefore you don't recognize what you're doing. Well, can I say to you, as Christians, as those living super in a natural world, I declare there are things that are secrets for you to learn so you can do things more effectively without getting the damage and the problems you have. But the difficulty is that you don't always make the connection. You don't always see the connection between what I'm doing and the problem I'm having and how someone else is doing the right thing and the results that they're getting. You don't make the connection. Making the connection between those things is learning the secret. Learning the secret. And that's what Paul said. I have learnt the secret of being filled. And so there's a secret here. There's a principle here that's not obvious, that if I've grabbed hold of that, it helps me, it guides me, it directs me, it enables me to get the job done. It enables me to live super in a natural world. So that's why I'm sharing it. You need to, if you're going to live super in a natural world, you need to learn these secrets. You need to learn them. You need to hunger for them. You need to look beyond the obvious thing that everyone else is doing and say, what's happening here? Some of these things, once you've got hold of them, sometimes you think, oh, they're so obvious. But to outside observers, they can't see them. They're just looking on and they can't work out what's happening. And this sort of thing is happening here. And Paul says, I'm sharing something here. And people look from the outside and they might get an impression. They might say, this is how it works. But let me give you this one. Okay, this is not actually going to be the focus of what I want to share. This is not the secrets I want to share. And I want to share, I'll get to my title in a second. Remind me, get me my title. You'll love my title tonight. Paul said, I'm not speaking. Let me just bring it back up on the verse 11. I am not speaking out of my want. For I have learned to be, what has he learned to be? He's learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. All right, so he is saying here, I'm not using my circumstances to bring out my speech. I am not speaking out of what I'm going through. I'm speaking out of another level that is this level called contentment. You know what, I'm going to leave it there. Maybe on another Tuesday talk, because this is a big topic here, and I actually just wanted to pick up on the fact that I have learned, and I just feel, don't just grab hold of this. At one point, I'm going to come back and tell you what the secret of contentment is, all right? Because it's not what you might think. It's not the natural, that's why I understand the word contentment, not the way Paul's using it. But I want to tell you, it's there if you want to study it around in the Bible, but it's there. But let me just leave it there. Paul learnt the secret of contentment. He learned secrets of how to deal with things. He learned how to handle things. And I want to share 4 things that he learned. And to do that, we want to go to 2 Corinthians. All right, so the key that we're learning, the key part of it, you need to learn. Everyone here, you say, I want to learn. I want to be a learner. I'm going to learn some secrets. I'm a secret learner. Not that you learn in secret, but you learn secrets. So let's go to verse 7 of 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Paul learnt the secret of using the word but. Okay, that's a secret. How to use but effectively. How to use your but effectively. How's that for a title? How to use it? We're not going to actually not going to call it that. How to use your but effectively, but that's a great title. Who wants to hear a message called How to Use Your Butt Effectively? 1 T in butt, please. But I'm actually calling this Learning the Secret of Buttman. Even better, learning the secret of but man, how to use the word but so effectively that it becomes part of your way of dealing with things. 2 Corinthians 4, verses 7, 8, and 9, Paul shows how he had learned to use the word but to totally transform situations. All right, the word but can be used to cut through situations and turn them around. Let's read verses 7, 8, and 9, and then we'll do some commentary on it. But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the surpassing greatness of the power may be of God and not from ourselves. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. We're perplexed, but not despairing. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. Let's leave it there. In those verses 8 and 9, he describes 4 things. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. We're perplexed, but not despairing. We're persecuted, but not forsaken. We're struck down, but we're not destroyed. 4 things. But, how to use your but effectively. Now, when I first used to read this passage as a young Christian, I was familiar with this, reading through. I actually thought, wow, who would want to be an apostle? Who would want to be an apostle? Because you know what I read? Paul said, and if you look at it, we are afflicted, we're perplexed, we're persecuted, and we're struck down. That's what I read. That's my understanding of what he was saying. He says, as an apostle, I'm afflicted, I'm crushed, I'm persecuted, and I'm struck down. And I'm like, wow, that's the tough life of an apostle, the tough life of the Apostle Paul in particular. He's being afflicted. But you know what? I was not Buttman. I'm not even Robin. I wasn't even in the same ballpark. I was not understanding what was happening here. He did not say, I'm afflicted, I'm perplexed, I'm persecuted, and I'm struck down. That's not the same. See, the word but can be used to totally change a sentence. And if we don't listen and take in what is on the other side, we just totally we lose the impact of what's being said. For instance, if I had said to one of my kids, okay, I am going to buy you a car. It's a Toyota Yaris. All right, I think they still make the Yaris. Anyway, let's say Toyota Yaris. I'm going to buy, I go to one of our kids and say, let's say Jordan. Hey, it's pretty exciting for Jordan. Jordan, I'm going to get you a Toyota Yaris. And he's pretty excited by that. And that's a good thing. If I come to him in 2 weeks' time and I say, Jordan, I'm no longer going to buy you a Toyota Yaris, but instead I'm going to buy you a Mercedes. I don't even know a great, someone recommend a really good model Mercedes. I think 300, I don't actually really know. If you know cars, tell me a really good model Mercedes that I'm buying Jordan. So, I've told Jordan, I am no longer buying you a Toyota, but I am buying you instead a Mercedes. What do you think would happen if I came in an hour later and found him crying on the couch? And I say, what's the matter, Jordan? He goes, nothing's the matter. He goes, and I walk out, okay, what's wrong with Jordan? And Caleb walks in, so what's the matter, Jordan? He goes, oh, Dad's not buying me the Toyota. Oh, what's that? He said, Dad said he's not buying me the Toyota. Do you understand? He hasn't understood the sentence at all. By just hearing the first part and totally ignoring the second part, he has not understood this at all. He hasn't embraced it at all. The sentence wasn't, I'm not buying you a Toyota, exclamation mark, full stop, no more, that's it. That was, I'm not buying you a Toyota, but I'm buying you a Mercedes. What's the takeaway message from that sentence? What's the key aspect? The secret is to understand the power of the but. To learn how but works in a sentence and learn how but works in terms of what's being said. The but changes everything. The but totally transforms that sentence. Without the but, it's a terrible sentence. But with the but, it's an amazing sentence. You look at that sentence. If I change those verses 8 and says, we are afflicted in every way, full stop. We are perplexed, full stop. We are persecuted, full stop. We are struck down, full stop. Yes, that paints a terrible picture. That's my aunt, and that's how I read it. I thought, wow, how's the Apostle Paul handling all that? That's a terrible life. But he didn't say that's what I'm doing. He said, I am afflicted in every way. Oh, wow, sorry, you've added every way. You are afflicted in every way, full stop. No, that is not the part of the sentence that you need to lay hold of. He says, I am afflicted in every way, but I'm not crushed. I'm perplexed, but I'm not despairing. I'm persecuted, but I'm not forsaken, and I'm struck down, but not destroyed. He learnt to use the word but in these 4 instances that totally transformed these promises or these declarations. The word but just made everything different. So let's look at them and take them apart one by one and look at it. And you know, you can actually find this, I think, in chapter 6. I won't take time now to go there, but you can maybe look there. In chapter 6, verses 5 through to 10, he talks about a whole lot of other things he's going, and he's got a whole lot of yet, that is the same as the yet man and the but man. It's so good to learn how to use these things. You know, I'll just give you one. In chapter 6, verse 9, okay, am I giving into temptation? Am I going to get drawn in? Let's just do one. Let's just start with that first one. As unknown, yet well known. As unknown, yet well known. What does that mean? Paul said, people say you're a nobody. People say to Paul, you're not anybody. No, to us he's like the Apostle Paul. He's the most amazing preacher in the first century. You know, aside from Jesus, he's the most. But you know what? Back then, people say, who's this Paul? Who's this Paul? I don't care about no Paul. Paul's just like nothing. And Paul says, you know what? I am a nothing. I'm not well known. I'm not a big shot. I'm not a king. I'm not a superstar. I'm not well known. Yet, I'm an unknown, and yet I am well known. What's he meaning by that? I'm well known to God. God knows me well. Heaven knows me well. Heaven knows who I am. Oh, people on earth don't care about me, but heaven cares. People on earth couldn't care less about how well I'm doing, but heaven cares. People on earth don't know who I am. They don't know my name, but Jesus knows my name. See the difference with the but? It just transforms that whole sentence. Oh, I'm a nobody, but I'm known. No one cares about me, but Jesus cares about me. You need to use that but a little bit more. Use your but. Get off your seat and use your but. You can use that when things happen to transform the whole context. You know, when people giving you a hard time, you say, well, people don't know who I am, but heaven knows who I am. But Jesus knows who I am. Jesus knows me by name. And all right, so did I get distracted enough? Let's get back to verse 8. So we've got 4 buts here. We are afflicted in every way. The word afflicted, it means to be pressed. It's the word used when you're squeezing grapes to make wine. To be pressed. I've been afflicted. I'm under pressure. So we are under pressure. We are, reading from my notes here, we are cornered. We're restricted. I've got nowhere to move. I'm under pressure. I'm being squeezed. I feel the tightness of the circumstances. The pressure is on me. I don't know which way to turn. And then Paul says, but you know what? I'm not crushed. I'm not under pressure. He said I'm being squeezed, but I'm not under pressure. I'm under intense pressure, but I'm not feeling any pressure. That's, let me just show you this in Mark 4:19. When it talks, this is the illustration, the parable Jesus gave about the 4 seeds in the 4 different ground. And in one ground, the third ground, it was grew up, but it was choked by the The thorns, it says, verse 19, the worries of the world, the deceitfulness of riches, the desires for other things enter in and choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. These things, the worries of the world, the deceitfulness of riches, and the desires for other things are pressures. These are the pressures that come in. But Jesus said here, these desires enter in the wrong soil. In other words, I let those pressures in to me, and they suddenly become internal pressures. External pressures versus an internal pressure. Do you know what? You can have a external pressure of a financial need, but you can internally have no pressure because you know God's got it covered. On the outside, there's great pressure, but on the inside, there's no pressure. It's only when you let the outside pressure become an inside pressure that you're in difficulty. And I believe this is what Paul was talking about when he said, you know what, I'm afflicted. We got pressures coming on us from every side. But he said, you know what? I'm not feeling the pressure. I'm not crushed. I'm not cornered, and I'm not restricted. So I'm being squeezed. But you know what, the enemy, it's like he gets locked and he can't squeeze any further because there's a cage. Have you ever seen those cars? We've got opposite the church. There's a place that builds race cars. Effectively, they're weekend rally cars, and so they will take these Mitsubishi cars, particularly, and they will put a roll cage in them, and they'll do everything to bring them up to standard that they can race them. Well, what are they doing with those cars? They put that. I've seen them, welding in these big roll cages, and so that means that the car can go ding, ding, bang, bang around 3 times, and when it stops, whereas a normal car would have been crushed, that car hasn't even been dented. Or the bumper's gone and the wheels have all been smashed up, but the actual shell where the people are sitting, not moved, no pressure, because that roll bar is a protection from the outward pressure that comes this here and no further. You need to realize that in Jesus you can have a pressure bar put in, that the pressure's on the outside but it doesn't come on the inside, because and that's what you say. I'm under you've got to be able to say this. I'm under financial pressure, but I'm under no pressure at all. I'm under pressure from my family to behave a certain way, but I have no pressure to do anything. How can you say those two things in the same breath? How can you say there is pressure, but then you say, but I'm not in any way crushed. I'm not in any way, not being squeezed internally. No, I'm feeling quite free. I've got a lot of room to move. I feel very relaxed. I've got room to laugh and be myself and do what God's called me to do. I'm not under pressure. So there's number one. Number one, you can be squeezed, but you're not feeling the pressure. You're not being crushed. Number two, you can be perplexed. This word perplexed means that you don't know. You got no answers. Literally means I don't have any answers. I'm perplexed. Which is exactly what the English word means. Perplexed. It means not knowing any answers, but not despairing. The Greek word here means never without an answer or a resource. I've got no answers, but I'm never without an answer. I don't know what to do, but I'm never short of a resource to get it done. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm always confident what's going to happen. Can you see how you can have an external perplexity, but then you can just call on an internal answer and say, but you know what? I've got the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and He is all wisdom. There is in Jesus. And I encourage you to take something like the book of Colossians. Go to Colossians chapter 1 and Colossians chapter 2. In Colossians 2 verse 3 it says, in Him, in Jesus, is hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Hallelujah. In Him, in Jesus is hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. It says that the secret, the mystery, the answer to the mystery, and this is chapter 1, verse 27 of Colossians, that is Christ in you, the hope of glory. It's, verse 10, in Jesus you have been made complete. You are able to say, I don't have the answers, but I have all the answers because I have Jesus. I have Jesus and He has all the answers, therefore I have all the answers. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I have a clear understanding. I am without an answer, but I'm never without an answer. I love you. You need to be able to say that. You need to be able to be Batman in this. You need to be able to declare, you know what, I'm not sure what to do, but I do know that there is an answer here that's going to come to me, and God's going to give us a clear direction. We don't know what to do up here yet, but God is going to speak it into our hearts, and it's going to come to our minds. We are going to receive a direction and a way through. I remember years ago, I remember there was a situation with Caleb and his schooling. He was about year 8, I think, year 9. He was going through a very difficult situation for us to try and navigate. Something he was going through at the school, and I can remember clearly Christine and I saying, we just don't know what to do. And it's like, I love the way Keith Moore had an illustration of this, like a filing cabinet. Have you ever seen, the old style filing cabinet? You pull it out and you're going through the files one after the other, and you go from the very start and you're looking for a particular document, and you get to the very end and it's not there. So what do? You push them back and you go through again even more carefully and more finely, and you get to the end and it's still not there. What do? You push it back and you say, now, one page at a time. But there's a point where you need to say it's not there. Just because you're looking more intensely doesn't mean it's there. Just because you're looking more closely doesn't mean it's there. And some of you are looking to yourself, looking through your mind. You're laying awake at night going through, there must be an answer to this, must be a solution to this, must be a solution to this, must be a solution to this. Well, what you need to say is, hey, hang on a sec, I'm not looking for the solution up in my own mind, in my own reasoning, in my own abilities. I'm looking for the Lord. And I say, Lord, I thank you. You have an answer for this. And that's what Christine and I said. I remember very clearly, and we're having this conversation, and we say, we don't know what to do, but we declare this. We do know what to do. We know God has got a way for us. God will give us wisdom in this. God was going to open up a path to us. He knows, and His wisdom is our wisdom. We have the mind of Christ. Jesus is going to give us an answer. He's going to speak that to us, and we're going to come to understand it. I'm not saying I'm going to come up with a solution. I'm not saying if I sit here and think this through long enough, I will come to. I said I don't have any answers, and I'm not looking for the answer from within myself. I am drawing it from who Jesus is. I declare I have no answers, but I'm never without an answer. We were actually doing exactly what this verse says. I was saying I have no answers, and guess what? We were praying, and suddenly this idea came to us. What if we did this? And we're like, never thought of doing that. What a great idea. So we put that into practice. We acted on what God showed us, and it solved the problem. Hallelujah. But I can remember sitting there saying, we don't know what to do, but we know what to do. So you've got to be a but man. Verse 9, persecuted but not forsaken. What does that mean? Verse 9. Persecuted but not forsaken. The word persecuted here means to be pursued, to be chased, to be hounded. It's like those old movies where the prisoner has escaped and he's running through the swamp, and there's the prison guards with the bloodhounds, and in the background you can hear the bloodhounds baying, oh, and they're on his trail, and he's desperate. But they are pursuing him. They're hounding him. They're coming for him. He can't, doesn't matter which way he turns, they're on his path. That's this word, pursued. Persecuted. They're persecuting. They're chasing. They're harassing you. But it says, but not forsaken. Literally, not left alone. Not left alone. So this is a little bit different one, but it's a powerful truth. It's the fact that they're after me. And Jesus said, no, they're not after you, they're after us. They're not after you, they're after us. And ultimately they're after me, says Jesus, get behind me. And he said, I'll take care of this. It's a big difference to being chased with Jesus as opposed to just being chased by yourself. When you're being persecuted, when you're being hounded, when the devil and anyone else is harassing you because you're believing in him, you just say, you know what, they're persecuting, but I'm never left alone. I'm never alone in this. Listen, you hounds of hell, you howl all you want. I'm with Jesus. I'm very confident we're going to get through this. So when I'm being persecuted, when I'm being chased, when I'm being harassed, I say I'm being persecuted, I'm being pursued, but I'm never left alone. He doesn't leave me to handle this by myself. I have someone with me to handle this. And the last one, I'm struck down, but I'm not destroyed. I'm smashed down, But I like this. I'm not rendered ineffective. I love that translation. I love that way of refraining. But I'm not rendered ineffective. I'm smashed. But you know what? I just keep functioning. I love to annoy the devil. He doesn't matter how many times we get knocked, we come back up, and we're just doing what God called us to do. I'm not being squeezed. I'm not without answers, and I'm not alone. And I'm functioning fully in what God has called me to do. I haven't lost my effectiveness in the slightest. And for every time the devil smashes me down, it just keeps functioning. Because you know what? He's not able to stop that which is in me working, because that's of the Holy Spirit. So I might get knocked, but I never become ineffective. I am never made ineffective. And you think of the life of Joseph in this. Joseph, he's rising up in his family. He's thrown into a pit, sold as a slave. But instead he just keeps tick, 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 tick. My picture, I don't know why, I've always seen in an old sort of picture in my mind of an alarm clock. Because, there's something about those big old alarm clocks, I guess, showing my age here, some people have probably never seen them, that these big old alarm clocks, they'd sit on the bedside table and they'd have a big second hand and you could hear them tick, 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 and then eventually a certain time there'd be two bells on the top and the alarm would ring. But they were loud, tick, 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 not like a silent digital clock. Not like the clock like your phone where you don't know whether it's on or not. It's this clock, tick, 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 tick. Every second you'd hear the tick. It was there. And sometimes you could become infuriated and say, "You stupid clock, can you imagine? Won't you shut up? Won't you stop counting time? I know that's what you're designed to, but I don't want you to." And you grab the phone, grab the clock and you smash it on the ground and you think, and as you go to get back in bed, you can hear on the floor, tick, 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 tick. So you get up and you stomp on it. You go to get in bed, tick, 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 tick. You kick it, tick, tick, tick. You can't stop the thing. It's indestructible. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Tick, 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 tick. Well, I sort of feel like that's what, the devil has his best shot and we just tick, 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 tick. We just keep ticking along. We keep doing what God's called us to do. We're not feeling the pressure. He can do what he wants on the outside, but we're able to get God's wisdom and grace helping us. He's with us. And we keep doing what God has called us to do. We keep ticking because we have learnt the secret of buts. We've learned how to not just hear the first part, but enforce the second part. That's the key to this. It doesn't happen naturally. You've got to learn this. You've got to learn how to apply each of those 4 buts in your life, because otherwise you'll just be known as afflicted, crushed, persecuted, and struck down. You'll say, "I'm being squeezed. I'm being pressed down. I'm perplexed. I don't know what answers are there. I'm being chased. I feel I'm being pursued, and I've been dealt a knockout blow." No, you say, "I can't. That's not me. I'll tell you what I'm like. I'm, let's read it from verse 8. I'm not under pressure. I always know what to do. I'm never left alone, and I'm never rendered ineffective. I'm totally always doing what God has called me to do." That's what Paul was able to transfer those first 4 statements into. He was effectively saying, I am not under pressure. I know what to do in Jesus. I know what to do. I'm never left alone, and I'm always effective in what God has called me to do. That doesn't mean all those first 4 things aren't real, but it just means they don't end the statement and they don't define and control who I am. So Paul had learned the secret of but. He'd learned how to use the word but in its right form and to transform that from what he was going through into what God said about that situation. And so I encourage you to take those 4 things. When you're feeling pressured, you say, "But I'm not letting that pressure in." When you feel like you don't know what to do, say, "I don't know what to do, but I always have an answer that's going to come through the wisdom and grace of God. I feel the pressure of people pursuing me and the devil chasing me down, but you know what? I'm never alone. And I might feel like the devil gives me a hard hit, but he doesn't knock me out. I just get up. one more time, and I just keep moving and going forward, and just infuriating the devil because he can't stop me and render me ineffective. And I'll be effective all the way through. Like Paul said, eventually, Paul said, I've been struck down, but he said, I have finished my race. And not in this passage in Corinthians, but later when he was speaking, he said, I have finished my race. I have run my course. I have done what God has called me to do, and I have seen it accomplished. Never rendered ineffective. He was able to go through his life. Even though the devil tried all sorts of things, Paul said, but I got through, did what God called me to do. That's what we declare in our lives. So that's my message for you tonight on how to live super in this natural world. It's to learn how to use God's buts in your life effectively to transform your approach and your understanding and what you're laying hold of, so that you're not stuck in the natural part, but you've transferred into the super part. God bless you heaps. I'll hang around. Say hi to me in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday for Tuesday Talk. So if you want to join us on Sunday, where we're talking about timeless truths, the wisdom that God gives that is for every generation and for every time. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Otherwise, I'll hang around with the comments for a while, but you have a blessed rest of the week.